In March 2024, Shohei Ohtani, the face of Major League Baseball and a global icon, was thrust into a scandal that no one saw coming. His trusted interpreter and assistant Ippei Mizuhara was accused of embezzling millions from Ohtani's bank. This was to feed his staggering gambling addiction. Court documents revealed that Mizuhara placed an astonishing 19,000 illegal bets, losing more than $40 million in the process. Prosecutors called it one of the most egregious examples of financial and personal betrayal they'd ever seen. The fallout was swift. Mizuhara pleaded guilty to bank and tax fraud. The MLB launched an investigation, and Ohtani was cleared of any wrongdoing. But the details of the case raised more questions than answers. Why would someone in Mizuhara's position work alongside one of the most disciplined, laser-focused athletes in the world and risk it all for gambling? What is it about the intersection of professional sports and high-stakes betting that creates such an enticing and destructive cocktail? It's a question that goes beyond Mizuhara. Sports has a culture where the adrenaline of competition, the allure of risk, and the pursuit of perfection bleed into every corner of life. Athletes, it seems, are drawn to gambling, not despite their unique abilities, but because of them. But what about Ohtani? While Mizuhara's case is in the headline, does Shohei Ohtani's own profile reveal a susceptibility to the same pressures? What drives people, especially athletes, to risk it all? And how someone like Shohei Ohtani might fit the mold in ways you might not expect. Gambling addiction, or gambling disorder, is categorized in the DSM-5 under addictive behaviors. It falls under the broader category of impulse control disorders, or ICDs, a group of conditions characterized by the inability to resist an urge that may harm oneself or others. Other examples of ICDs include intermittent explosive disorder, kleptomania, pyromania, and trichotillomania. Gambling disorder is a persistent behavior that disrupts all daily functioning, and its symptoms include constantly thinking about past bets or planning future ones, needing to gamble more money or take bigger risks to achieve the same emotional thrill, attempting to recover lost money through even riskier bets, lying to family members or therapists about the extent of gambling behavior, and showcasing impulsive behaviors by acting on urges without regard for consequences. When someone gambles, their brain releases dopamine, the chemical associated with pleasure and reward. The problem? Well, over time, the brain becomes desensitized to normal levels of dopamine, requiring greater risk and higher stakes to achieve the same rush. This is known as tolerance, which is a hallmark of addiction. Gambling is particularly insidious because it creates an illusion of control. But the truth is, you're not just making poor choices, you are losing the ability to choose at all. Gambling has been a pitfall for many of the greatest athletes. Take Michael Jordan, arguably the most iconic basketball player of all time. Off the court, his competitive drive didn't fade. It extended to high-stakes poker games, rounds of golf, and private bets. Jordan reportedly lost $1.25 million in a single golf outing. Another time, he was spotted in Atlantic City at a casino late night, hours before a crucial playoff game. Jordan maintains that he has never let gambling affect his performance. Yet, the whisper of potential NBA investigation into his betting habits have lingered in the public imagination. Then there's Pete Rose, one of the greatest hitters in Major League Baseball. One of the greatest hitters in Major League Baseball history. His name was once synonymous with success, until it became synonymous with scandal. Rose's downfall began when it was revealed that he had bet on games while managing the Cincinnati Reds. Rose always insisted he only bet on his own team, but the MLB handed him a lifetime ban, stripping him of any chance at being inducted to the Hall of Fame. His case remains one of the most infamous examples of gambling's power to tarnish an athlete's legacy. And then there's Floyd Mayweather, a man who calls himself money for a reason. The boxing champion is infamous for flaunting his wealth and his gambling. Mayweather regularly posts his sports betting slips on social media, bragging about winning millions, but if he's willing to publicize his wins, the losses are much likely bigger. For Mayweather, the thrill of betting mirrors the intensity of stepping into the ring. It's a high he doesn't seem to want to live without. Luckily, he's been reducing his amount of time betting and has even spoken out against doing it. And these aren't isolated stories, by the way. They are part of a pattern. Gambling draws athletes in, not by coincidence, but because of who they are and how they think. Athletes are wired to win. For players like Jordan, Rose, and Mayweather, every aspect of their life becomes a contest. Gambling provides another game to master, another opponent to beat, and even if the stakes are dangerously high. Jordan himself even said in a 1993 interview with Ahmad Rashad that he didn't have a gambling problem, but instead he had a competition problem.
It was unfair that I was being considered a criminal for doing something that is not illegal. Gambling is legal. I think that's the only thing that people are going to say was a bad thing about Michael Jordan. No, I didn't commit a crime. but he gambled. That, hey, I'm a competitor and I gambled.
For many athletes, the structured world of professional sports is both a blessing and a curse. On the field, they thrive under the strict schedules, rules, and constant competition, but off the field, the sudden lack of structure can be overwhelming. In their search for stimulation, gambling creates the perfect storm. And for athletes, gambling doesn't feel like losing control. It feels like another chance to win. At first glance, Shohei Ohtani seems like the last person you would associate with gambling. He's a once-in-a-generation talent, a disciplined and focused athlete who has captured the world's admiration by excelling as both a pitcher and a hitter. The scandal surrounding his assistant, Ippei Mizuhara, paints a picture of betrayal and bad influences. But beneath the clean-cut image, could Ohtani's profile suggest a vulnerability to the same pressures and patterns that ensnare so many athletes? Let's take a look into the traits that might make Ohtani a candidate for the same compulsions. When Shohei Ohtani moved to the US, his family imposed a strict allowance on him. Despite him earning millions, Ohtani was limited to a $1,000 monthly budget. On the surface, this seems like a strategy to instill discipline and shielding him from the temptations of newfound wealth. But consider the psychological toll of being micromanaged in your finances while being a global superstar. This level of control can breed resentment or a latent desire for rebellion, and it's not hard to imagine how someone under such restrictions might eventually seek out an outlet. Something risky, something liberating, or maybe his parents knew that the temptation of all that money could lead to poor decisions, like gambling, and decided to restrict his access before it even became a problem. Ohtani is the definition of obsession. His relentless focus on baseball has made him one of the most disciplined athletes in the world. His routine is legendary. He does hours of practice, meticulous preparation, and a single-minded pursuit of excellence. But obsession can be a double-edged sword as well. While it propels him into greatness on the field, it also hints at an underlying compulsive nature. Gambling thrives on this kind of personality, the need to strategize and calculate and push for perfection. And that leads to hyper-competitiveness. And when Ohtani competes, he aims to dominate. Gambling offers another arena where this hyper-competitiveness can thrive. The thrill of the bet, the chase of the win, and the constant opportunity to outwit the odds could all appeal to someone who is wired like Ohtani is. And shortly after the gambling scandal broke, Ohtani made a decision that shocked many. He got married. And this is so impulsive. Coming from such a tumultuous time, it kind of raised eyebrows. Was it an attempt to change the narrative, a reaction to the personal stresses in life, or just marriage? Impulsivity is often a trait of gamblers. By the way, none of this is to say that Shohei Ohtani has gambled or will gamble. It's just that his story highlights how even the most disciplined and celebrated athletes aren't immune to pressures and temptations that come with their jobs. And his profile matches with somebody who would be susceptible to gambling. The financial control, the obsessive tendencies, the hyper-competitiveness, and impulsivity are all traits that are the perfect recipe for a gambler. And unfortunately, that's because of the culture of sports. It feeds the cycle of risk, reward, and for some, eventually addiction. For athletes, life exists in extremes. Their training, their diet, and even sleep are micromanaged. They are rewarded for their discipline. Yet this rigid control can feel suffocating. Gambling offers something that their professional lives rarely does: chaos. Where sports demand structure, gambling provides spontaneity. For athletes used to control, betting comes a way to surrender to the unpredictability. Athletes' identities are deeply tied to competition. They have an appetite for risk, a hunger for intensity that mirrors playing in the field. Gambling can scratch that itch, and it isn't just about thrill-seeking for athletes, it can also be a coping mechanism. The high-pressure world of professional sports leaves little room for vulnerability or failure. In these moments, gambling can feel like a solution, a distraction, a private escape from relentless expectations. For some athletes whose identities are built entirely around success, the idea of risking it all in an uncontrolled environment might feel even therapeutic. The point of this video isn't whether Ohtani gambles. It's whether his world, like so many athletes, is designed to push even the strongest among us to the edge. From Jordan to Rose to Mayweather, the pattern is clear. Gambling doesn't discriminate. Beneath the stats and the glory, athletes are just as human and vulnerable as the rest of us.